They were a young married couple, experiencing the joys of owning their first home. Until one fateful day, some house guests showed up unexpectedly.
John Larroquette and Kirstie Alley star in Madhouse. That's right, it's a crossover from Cheers and Night Court, guest starring SNL's own Weekend Update anchor, Dennis Miller. This shit is horrifying, babe. Cha-cha-cha. That's Madhouse, coming this summer from Dirt to Dirt Pictures.
You know when I pick a movie, that's when I'm under pressure now. The question always comes back to me, what were they thinking now? Whoa, what were they thinking? What were they thinking?
Oh, welcome back, folks, to What Were They Thinking, a podcast about bad to questionable movies. And, this week's got it in spades, I'll tell you. Talking this week about the 1990 Kirstie Alley, John Larroquette tour de force Madhouse. Of course, I can't do this sort of thing alone. I'm one of your co-hosts, Nathan. With me, as always, is the Dennis Miller to my John Larroquette. I barely remembered characters. This is so broad.
You can't.
Brendan, how you doing?
Hey, babe, I don't think you could call them broads anymore.
Cha cha
Cha, cha, cha.
Because everyone will cancel you, right, Dennis?
That's right. That's the only reason I would ever get canceled. Listen,
Yeah.
Dennis Miller's barely in this movie, and that's my first biggest flaw. I was hoping to get a lot more Dennis, but this is not a bordello of blood situation. Yes, I am Brendan. How's everyone doing? I would like a response, please. Okay, great.
Okay, you in the back. Shut up. Sit
Yeah.
down.
Hey, you know what? There isn't like an official dress code, but come on.
Would you go to your mom's place dressed like that?
Yeah, really though. I do appreciate that the left and the right side though, like one of them is, a few of them on the left side are wearing Crips shirts, and a few of them on the right side are wearing Bloods shirts. Like that's a smart idea. That's clever. That's fun.
It's weird that they showed up for the, our take on Madhouse and not something like, I don't know, don't be a menace to South Central while drinking your juice in the hood.
I mean, they likes what they likes. Podcasting will unite us all.
Not gonna yuck your yum. So, there you go.
Not gonna yum your yuck either. Ooh.
So, like I said, we're talking about 1990s Madhouse. This one was produced by Orion Pictures. Just another reason why they went in the toilet there for quite some time.
Wait,
and are only now back.
This wasn't a smash hit?
Oh my God! You'd think with we got Kirstie Alley in it. We got, like I said, Larroquette, Dennis Miller's in there. The Paper Chase guy's in there. Yeah, that's about it.
I don't really know many people in this movie. I'll be honest with you.
I saw this movie when I was a kid. It was probably one of the, getting into that, those edgier, more adult type comedies. Although, again, I'd been watching slasher movies since I was 7. But I was a big fan of Night Court, big fan of Cheers. So Kirstie Alley, John Larroquette in the same movie. I was like, I've got to see this movie. And I didn't pay attention to critics or anything at the time because I would have been 12. I only just maybe started listening to or watching at the movies like that year or a year later. So it didn't really matter, or I suppose it would have mattered, but I didn't know how terribly badly this movie was being received. I probably would have avoided it. But when I was a kid, I didn't. I rented it and watched it. And I think my 12-year-old brain thought it was hilarious.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean,
because it's that kind of humor.
I mean, it's probably going for that demographic a bit, I would say.
Yeah.
This is also directed by the Tom Ropelewski. I think that's how you pronounce
Ropelewski?
it. Well, there's a
Yeah.
L-E-W. I think it's Ropelewski.
Yeah.
But he also directed another Kirstie Alley movie called Loverboy, and The Next Best Thing starring Madonna and Rupert Everett, and The Kiss, which I don't know what that is.
Wait, what? Rupert Everett and Madonna in a movie?
Yep.
Okay. All right.
And
I'd be less surprised if it was Rupert Murdoch and Madonna in a movie, mate.
oh, sorry. I think he wrote that movie. My mistake. Now it's much more believable. And he also, of course, directed and wrote the famed classic "Look Who's Talking Now," where the dogs talk. So he's
the dog one with DeVito. He works with Kirstie Alley a lot.
He's worked with Kirstie Alley like 3 other times as either a director or a screenwriter. So I'm just saying, I'm going to put the rumor out there now. You know, God rest her soul, but I think there's something going on with these two.
Well, I mean, she wasn't always awful. So.
Well, she at least wasn't outwardly.
I suppose.
We didn't know.
So you advance in age. I find with a lot of folks, you start out, a lot of times you'll start out as a liberal, start getting more and more conservative as you get older, and then like by the time you get to your 40s, 50s, you're watching Fox. If for a lot of people, that's just been my experience.
I would say certainly for people who grew up in that era. I think people now, as they get older, maybe not as much, but
no, I think that's give it time. Give it time.
Yeah, I guess I just mean
because
like not in
as
this...
people get older, they want that weird sense of safety that they think conservatism brings.
Right, but I just mean I think right now we're living not in a time of a lot of conservatism's not the same that it was then. So I think the people that are
no, but I still feel that the advancement, the way it goes, is unless you're one of those folks who was like born and bred in like a hardcore right wing, that would be a Madhouse, and we're here to talk about Madhouse, not a Madhouse.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So, this movie, like I said, does have a lot of a broad comedy, almost sitcom-esque. For a lot of the stuff that happens in this movie, and like so much so that even it had I would say probably been 20 years or more since I've seen this movie last.
Okay.
So, like, the only things that really stuck with me big time were, like, I had the cat throwing up, the house guests that wouldn't leave, and Dennis Miller and John Larroquette were buddies. Those were the things that stuck with me. And so, it wasn't completely fresh, but almost like watching it fresh, and I was still able to basically write the jokes. Not because I was remembering them from when they happened, but because it's so formulaic.
Oh yeah. Sorry. You're gonna tell us briefly what
I'm gonna get
movie's
to
about?
that. Yep, I'm gonna get
All
to
right.
the very most important. I gotta get to the
Plot.
That's right, Brent. The plot. Kirstie Alley and John Larroquette are they're new homeowners, young yuppie couple. Bought their first home out in the valley, I guess, and they're enjoying it. It's a starter home for them. The toilet needs to jiggle the handle and stuff, which is that's a comedy trope from the 80s and 90s if I ever saw one.
Mm-hmm.
Then family members come to visit, and then another family member comes to visit, and then they have to take in other people. So, and these people refuse to leave. Of course, they lose control of their house or like their surrounding. It devolves into absolute chaos. There are cats and snakes living together. It's mass bedlam.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I guess hilarity ensues.
It attempts to ensue.
Yeah.
There's there's a lot of falling down.
There's a lot of pratfalls. It's like I said, it's very, very broad. You get a lot of like that slapsticky, easy joke, easy, I guess, going for the easy laugh stuff.
Very
A lot of tropes.
A lot of tropes, a lot of casual. I know you said 1990, but there's a lot of casual 80s racism, as is the style.
Yes,
especially when we meet Kirstie Alley's sister with the Middle Eastern husband.
I
thought, okay,
I'd forgotten all about that.
Yeah, well, the first time she says the one slur, I was like, okay, I'm not surprised, whatever, like, let's just move on. But then she just keeps going to town, like, there's this one after the other, like, nonstop. Like, she's like, it reminded me of Billy Barty and...
Body slam.
Body slam, yeah, just going at her.
Oof.
But Nathan, I gotta say, right off the bat, this movie made me uncomfortable because they start out by having this couple with a new house, and I was like, oh, okay, this is kind of like where I was at not that long ago. And then they have the issues at the toilet right away, and I was like, oh, fuck you, movie. Do you have a camera in my home?
That was actually, I mean, honest to goodness, that was a thing I saw in like I countless amounts of comedies and sitcoms on TV and in movies in the 80s and 90s, and legitimately had a couple of relatives that I could think of off the top of my head where we had to, and I quote, jiggle the handle every time you flush the toilet.
Yeah. Well, and isn't it weird too, though, like, because I expected there to be a big payoff to that, and really, I mean, the ending scene, I guess, but I expected, like, you know, someone to go in there and fucking just shit to fly everywhere or something, like, you know, it's something like...
Or that the toilet would cause like a flood and like that, like it would like break through like Breaking Bad style through the floor or something like that.
Exactly. Yeah. But no, the other movie, I don't know why I thought of this specific sequel to a movie, but for some reason I thought of like Meet the Fockers, and the reason it's that specifically is because it's when they go to like Ben Stiller, they go to his dad's house. It's like Dustin Hoffman, and he says, if it's yellow, let it mellow, and if it's brown, flush it down.
Flush it down, yeah.
And I was like, that trope has been around for so long.
Yes. And, okay, so, I mean, let's get right into the whole, the tropes, because, I mean, first of all, like I said, they're a yuppie couple, so they're very materialistic.
And very unlikable.
Very much so, but... a lot of people were like that in the 80s. I mean, and I know this is a 1990, but I mean, come on, this is an 80s.
It's an 80s movie. This was probably filmed in like 87 and delayed because this had all the trappings of a mid 80s movie. Like this did not look like 1990 at all.
No, this whole thing reeks of Reagan.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yuppie, spend.
Yuppies, they're obsessed with their cars.
They have his and hers cars.
No, they have hers and mine cars.
Oh, right.
Because that's what, that's their vanity license plates are hers and mine.
So clearly,
not hers and his.
Yeah, which is odd that it wouldn't just be hers and his. Now I just assumed that's what it was.
And I guess I don't know. This is it was that thing in the 80s where folks kind of that valued that ideal of success because I mean as shitty as Ronald Reagan was, 80s Reagan era and even the first two terms of Bush, that was a boom time rather for not just the US but for all Western countries.
Mm-hmm.
Like people were making money, snorting coke, watching Saturday morning cartoons. It was quite the age to be alive, I'll tell you. The only thing you had to remember is when your shows were on and how to set the VCR because nothing was streaming because the internet was not a thing for commercial users.
Well, you had to have cocaine because the same people who were watching those early Saturday morning cartoons were watching Saturday Night Live, so they had to stay up for a long time on Saturdays.
Right.
So, yeah, and just I love it too in these movies that another trope is like the places where they work, it's always like it's either like a law firm or it's stocks or it's something like corporate-y. And I love
it's news and hedge fund. I think it's hedge funds.
Yeah, but they always make it like just vague enough that you don't like really question anything. Like
it's so that you can just say things like I want that quarterly projection on my desk in the morning.
Right. Well, it's even in like, much better movies like Christmas Vacation. I mean, it's even pretty vague where he works, other than like, it's an insurance or whatever. Stock market
he works. He doesn't. He works at like food preservatives.
Oh, see, I didn't even. Okay.
Yeah, because there's one point he's eating some of their food, and this is Christmas Vacation, of course. He's eating some of the food. And he's like, because the whole idea is that the products that they create are so jammed packed with preservatives that the food will last forever, but it tastes terrible and it's barely edible.
Wow, I do not remember that at all, and I've seen that movie 8 million times.
When Brian Doyle Murray is telling him about the preservative, yeah, type something up for me. None of that inside baseball crap. Something that everyone can understand.
Yeah. Yeah, so
but
there's
Madhouse.
There's so many of these tropes, and I mean, and then Dennis Miller literally almost walking right from the set of Weekend Update, like he just his hair
so much so that he has to even mention Chernobyl.
yeah,
like because at this point we found out that John Larroquette's cousin Freddie. I remember Freddie's name, but I don't remember John's off the top of my head. I think it's Mark or something.
I mean, when someone is like that recognizable, when you've seen them in so much stuff, it's John Larroquette. It's Kirstie Alley. It's really hard.
Folks, be glad I'm not calling him Dan Fielding, okay? So, anyways, Freddie's gonna show up. They're supposed to be staying for 5 days. He's like, what's the worst that can happen, or what's the worst they could do in 5 days? Of course, Miller's got to get Chernobyl out in 5 minutes, babe. Ja.
Right. Yeah, Dennis.
And then we meet the cigar chomping boss who wants his hedge fund managed, and they need to get those projections on the desk so they can get to the bell going and the sounding and the stocks and the up and the down. I mean, I think that's an exact quote from the movie.
I'm pretty sure. I'm just pulling the script here. Let me just see. You said the up and the down, right?
Yeah, and the bell going with the stocks and the up and the down.
Let me just do a quick Control F and type that in. Let's see here. Oh, right on the nose, Nathan.
Word for word. I've seen it a couple times.
Yeah. One thing that stuck out to me early on was, first of all, I think they're both terrible. Like throughout the movie, okay, there's a couple times where I'm like, okay, I get their frustration, but they're kind of bad. And
the weird thing is that they're terrible, but they're not so terrible that they won't say, get the fuck out of our house.
That didn't make sense to me, because I'm like, you people are obviously not good people. Like, just get them out. But the thing is, okay, so the whole setup to this is that his cousin is like gonna stay with them. His cousin, John Larroquette's cousin and wife.
Wild cousin. He was such a wild man back in the day.
Yeah, and one thing that stuck out to me early is Kirstie Alley is like a newscaster, or she has like a segment on the news.
She's a question girl, which is a really dignified title.
Right? I was like, God damn it. But because they cut every now and then to a bunch of montages of her just like asking people like, what would you do for $1 million? Like that kind of thing.
What's your secret summer fantasy?
Yeah.
And of course, date with Tom Cruise. A date with Tom Cruise.
Get
one's
it?
A guy, one's a girl. See? Yeah.
You get it?
Because it's California and there are gay people there. Nowhere else in America, though.
No.
Not in Reagan's America. Only in that loony lefty California. And maybe down in the lower ends of New York in the village.
Reagan got an early screening of this movie for the White House and was like, well, maybe we should edit out that part.
What do you think, Mummy?
Yeah. What a weird thing. What a weird thing to be gay. Oh, that's so weird. Right, Mommy? My wife?
Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to throw a bunch of racial epithets that I hope people don't catch on tape.
And I'll make sure not to mention AIDS.
Because that's not a thing that doesn't exist.
But Madhouse.
Awful. He was a fucking... It's the weird thing is, with the whole thing with the Trumpster fire from a few years ago made me pine for the days of Reagan, and I fucking hate that guy.
Yeah. When people said, like, oh, man, Trump is no Reagan, that is a brutal insult.
Yeah.
That is like, oh, Trump is no bag of shit. He's a worse bag of shit.
Way worse than Reagan, yeah.
That's bad, guys. That's real bad. But yeah, so she has her question girl segment, and my thing was John Larroquette shows up at the station when she's in the midst of having an interview about getting promoted, and he's like, but it's like nothing important.
Knock.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go pick up my cousin at the airport.
It's like
both of us need to be there.
Right. I was like, you can just be there, dude. Like, she doesn't need to. And then she comes out saying, like, oh, you just that was my interview to get promoted. And he's like, yeah, honey, but come on, we gotta make good. We gotta make it look good. And I'm like, you're a dick.
He's a dude in the 80s, because the wife's job didn't matter at the time.
I'm actually surprised Kirstie Alley's character has a job in this movie, to be honest with you.
Well, I mean,
we're 1990. We're coming up on the career woman.
Well, I mean, I would say Working Girl was what, 86?
Yeah. Is that the one with
Sigourney Weaver?
Okay.
Yeah,
I haven't seen it.
So it would have been about 4 or 5 years previous.
Okay.
So the idea of her being a professionally upwardly mobile woman, like, that doesn't spell yuppie, but you get what I'm saying.
Right. A woman with a career?
A woman with a career was while still the target for several hacky stand-up comedians at the time, was becoming to be not a very uncommon thing.
Right. I do notice, though, and I guess that this movie negates that in one scene when Kirstie Alley does a striptease, where I was like, oh, okay. But in a lot of these movies, if the woman is a career woman, she often wears, like, huge shoulder pads and a suit, and she doesn't really get to be sexy.
She got to wear the shoulder pads and suit, because I remember a couple times when she was on the news, I was like, Jesus, they give her Mean Joe Green's shoulder pads to put under that thing?
Oh, no, they definitely do it in this movie, but I just mean, like, I was surprised they gave her that sexy bit later. They still went with that. I mean, it's Kirstie Alley.
It's Kirstie Alley, and it's like, it's 80s Kirstie Alley, too.
Yeah.
I mean...
I will say, obviously R.I.P. She just passed, like, I think, like, last year or something.
Yes.
Maybe, she had some shitty views, but the thing is with the Kirstie Alley, I find, and in this movie too, it's like she didn't have a problem making herself look goofy or bad or even like kind of gross, and not that she's gross, but to gross herself up for a laugh.
No, she is, and I mean, not even so much. I mean, the same with Larroquette. I mean, both of them, they get the assignment, they understand the assignment, they know that, this character's not always going to have dignity, so yeah, I'm just going to need to roll with it.
Right.
And it sucks when you see people who you can tell that they're super uncomfortable doing that, but they still have to do it for like a show, and it's like they're you could tell they're like just gritting their teeth to get through it.
Yeah.
But I mean, both of these guys do it with just absolute, they don't skip a beat.
Nope.
Like later on when they are both a disheveled disaster of a couple, there's no holding back. Everything, it's beautiful.
But the house guests,
yes, from New Jersey, John Larroquette's cousin Freddie, who used to be named Ever Ready Freddie, and when we see him is almost Deady Freddie, because he's been so henpecked and I don't say bludgeoned verbally to death by this harpy of a wife of his, because they've got to make her out to be the bad person, because I mean for lack of better terms, she's a villain in this movie.
Yeah, well, he had,
even though I don't think there's a single good person in this movie.
There isn't. There really isn't. The only character that gets a redemption arc is the cat.
Yes. Well, I mean, Freddie learns to stand up for himself, I guess.
But I mean, Freddie is like, he's set up as this guy that John Larroquette's like, oh, you used to have a crazy life and you used to like get all the ladies and stuff. And but the movie frames it as like, and I know she's supposed to be like worse than this, but it's like, oh man, this girl made him settle down and get a job and live. Like, oh, what a shrill mess of a wife.
Well, he being Freddy, pronouns, pal. He says that when Larroquette's talking to him about like how he used to be, like you could have any girl in high school, you were on this team, you had all this confidence, and he's like, yeah, somewhere between graduation and September of the following year, it all fell apart. And I'm like, Jesus, that is a harrowing life tale.
Yeah, that's a deep, quick depression.
There's peaked in high school, and then there is like bottomed out after high school was over immediately.
Yeah, listen, the bully in high school usually ends up in jail, but not usually 2 months after they graduate.
It's one of those things where it's like you're meant to feel sorry for Freddy because he does the way Larroquette makes him out to be. It sounds like he was a really great guy, a fun guy to be with, and you know what? We should really feel bad for him. But then I immediately stopped feeling bad for him because, well, he keeps calling John Larroquette Pudge, and then decides to show all these home movies where he's a fat kid, and everybody has this huge laugh about how they used to pretend he was a float in the Macy's Day Parade. Oh, here's a video of him just eating handfuls and handfuls of cake. Isn't that hilarious? Don't you feel good about yourself now, cousin? I'm glad I came to visit you.
That was awful. And also, 2 things. Kirstie Alley was laughing her ass off at it as well. And number 2, did they bring that tape?
Yes, he brought those home movies because at one point, because when they're watching it, he asks Freddy, how many of these did you bring? He's like, only 10 or 12, something like that.
Okay, because I must have missed that, because when they played that video, I was like, why would Larroquette keep these home videos? These are horrifying. Like,
those are all Freddy's.
I'm surprised he doesn't have, like, severe self-esteem issues.
He's constantly working out.
That's true.
There's all kinds of like stuff that indicates that he's still dealing with that whole thing. And granted, he does stand up to him a bit and tells him to stop calling him Pudge because he's not pudgy fat little kid anymore. But Freddy doesn't do any better. He's like, I'll call you Stretch because you thinned out as you got taller.
Right. It's like, yeah, or
just call him Mark, asshole.
Yeah, just call me Mark or bro or brother or something.
Cousin.
Oh,
whatever.
I guess, yeah, he's his cousin. Sorry. Okay, never mind. I take it all back. Everything worked. It's perfect. But the real star.
Fred is also Ed Norton. Not Edward Norton. Ed Norton from the Honeymooners. He used to work in the sewers, and would just claim things that came down the pipe and clean them up.
He does look like that, actually.
No, that's what he does. He says like he lost his job doing that.
Right. No, but I'm saying that I think Fred kind of looked like him a little bit.
Oh, like Ed Norton.
Yeah.
The Honeymooners. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a dream
How
job.
you do that, Marky boy?
The real
Get
star.
to these nice watches.
The real star of this couple is their cat, anyway.
Oh my God.
Which so you know what? I think this was I thought this movie was going to become Pet Sematary, because the cat keeps dying, getting buried, and coming back to life.
The best part about all of that, like when we first meet the cat, it gets car sick. It throws up all in the car. It's disgusting. Patty was almost sick herself in that scene. The cat almost, as soon as they get home or from the airport, the cat almost dies and they have to bury it. And then the Patty's like, whoa. And then the cat goes back to life, and she's like, Jesus, is this Pet Sematary? And I'm like, you know what? This kind of is a horror movie. And I haven't seen Mother. And then when you said this is basically Mother if it was a sitcom, I was like, that makes perfect sense. Because they bury this cat 4 times?
At least.
Yeah.
Not to mention,
No, they bury it 3 times and it goes to the evidence locker once.
Not to mention later when a kid who I do believe becomes Jeffrey Dahmer later in life.
Oh my God,
is
that
chasing it with a fucking bat, and then
tries to put it in a microwave.
Doesn't he run over it with a lawnmower?
No, he chases it with a lawnmower after actually it hasn't come back to life yet, which was a weird editing thing.
He kills it somehow.
Blow it up.
Yeah,
he blows it up.
Yeah.
The kid is the next door neighbor's kid. Now we're gonna talk because all these people we're talking about end up being house guests. We haven't even touched on Kirstie Alley's sister yet, who is.
Oh boy.
I'm really, I guess, I'm surprised that they didn't make Kirstie Alley and her sister Jewish, because there's a lot of jokes about them getting a nose job from Bernice. That's Bernice, yeah. That's Freddie's wife.
Yeah, Fred's wife keeps, because she's like, because I'm a beauty expert, and it looks like you got a little snip, just a little one.
It's not too perfect. In fact, I left one of the nostrils a little too big.
Right.
But the idea, like, because when we meet her sister, she has been kicked out or she has left, depending on, which version of the story you hear in the movie. She's left her Middle Eastern, I guess, oil baron husband?
I'm assuming, because the joke is that she's basically like Anna Nicole Smith. She's going after all these older men
or just rich men in general, because, when she starts kind of trying to lay out, who she's going to land for her new man, she's got a whole list of people, and they ask, why do you got all stars next to their names? So those ones are over 80.
Right.
But I'm surprised they didn't, because it seems like, that perfect, lazy 80s comedy that they could have just snatched straight up by making her Jewish, which by de facto would make Kirstie Alley Jewish, but she's married to an Arab man.
Right.
So, I mean, there's all kinds of, like, lazy 80s comedy you could mine there.
Who, by the way, we never see on screen.
No, we don't.
We hear a voice, and I've got a feeling it wasn't...
I also have a feeling he wasn't really speaking Farsi.
No. I have the feeling that it was just a white guy speaking gibberish.
I did enjoy the fact that another character who we never see but only hear a voice of is the doctor for Bernice. His voice is done by a doctor with the same name, but he's a dental surgeon.
Right.
In the credits, he's listed as Dr. What was his name? I can't even remember now.
Wait, it's performed by an actual doctor?
Yeah. I'm Jack Penix. Penex. Dr. Penix.
Oh, right.
His character is credited in the credits as Jack Penix, OBGYN, played by Dr. Jack Penix, DDS.
So he's played by a dentist.
I'm guessing he knew somebody in production, and they were like, "This would be hilarious." Like my buddy Jack, he'll do it. It'll be hilarious. Well, he'll love it.
Also hilarious is that they pronounce it Penix. What's that close to?
And he's an OBGYN. Derp to diddly derp.
Yeah. So yeah, because we but yeah,
she's
sorry.
Pregnant. Bernice is pregnant.
Well, yeah. As far
she says she's pregnant.
As far as we know.
Spoiler alert.
Well, but the thing is too, like when she says she's pregnant, and there's the moment where they're about to leave, and Kirstie Alley accidentally knocks her down. I was like, and she's like screaming in pain. I'm like, this is horrifying. It's a miscarriage as a comedy, like a possible miscarriage as like a joke,
as a comedy beat. Yep.
Yeah, and then later there's like there's a moment where Larroquette is hit on by a very young girl for like a brief second.
I was just about to get to that, because now that we've covered the cousins, or the cousin and the wife, and the sister who shows up, she is now another house guest. So we've got 3 house guests now. The next door neighbor, who is played by the paper chase guy, the Warrior of the Lost World. If anybody's getting any of these Mystery Science Theater references,
I know Warrior of the Lost World.
He was the guy driving the motorcycle. He was the hero in that. Yeah.
Great film.
And his family, they live next door. He's got the aforementioned sociopath son, named
Dahmer.
CK.
Oh, sorry.
who says it stands for confirmed kills. Although I think I might change it to cat killer. He's a sociopath.
He is going to be a serial killer.
Like Dahmer, or he's gonna be like, Gacy, Ramirez. Take your pick.
Well, I think Dahmer, like, very specifically was torturing like small animals. So I think that's why my mind went to Dahmer.
It's one of the red flags.
The
in
hair
general.
too. The hair.
There, yeah. And then of course he's got his Lolita wannabe daughter, who is constantly hitting on Larroquette, saying shit like, I got my first period, and she's doing all these like gymnast stretches and bouncing on the trampoline. And it's very, disconcerting.
Mm-hmm.
So much so that it got made then. I don't know. Do you think they would tackle it with this kind of, or do you think they would rewrite that character if they made a movie like this now?
I don't know. You see, the weird thing to me is that it's a pretty open secret of the shit that goes on in Hollywood. So whenever I see this kind of thing in a movie, it's extra weird because I'm like, there's a good chance there are at least like 5-6 producers behind the scenes that are like, I'd nail that, right, Benny?
I think the worst part of it is,
Right,
guarantee
Javi?
you there's a at one point the director or someone was like, come on, make it sexier.
That's another thing too. It's like
let me finish my math homework first.
It's like when we watch Carpool. Like, I can only imagine when she has to do that walk, and he's like, "Can you do it slower and more revealing?" It's like, dude, she's fucking 16.
Yeah,
It's weird. I'm just saying it's weird. But you know what? Possible statutory rape is hilarious, I guess.
so let's just run down the trope count that we have here now. We've got yuppies.
Yeah.
We have got Jersey Shore white trash. I don't want to be too mean, but let's call it what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Cigar chomping client, material obsessed sister married to an Arab oil magnate.
Which, like, it could have just as well been just like an old rich guy, but they decided to go the more racial route.
Right. A dude bro next door neighbor who thinks that in the parlance of our times, that John Larroquette is a cuck.
Wait, is there a single person of color in this movie? With lines?
In the montages.
Okay, but no dialogue.
No main characters, no.
Okay. So the one character...
Madhouse so white, yes. # Madhouse so white.
Well, the one character that's not white that we hear is off screen.
Yes.
Oh, 1990.
And then as I said before, not only the dude bro, but the kid who thinks killing animals is played for yucks, and the Lolita daughter of the next door neighbor.
That's the thing. Like, I know that like there's comedies where, animals get hurt and it's goofy and it's like not meant to be taken super seriously. But this movie, it just seems meaner. Like, because you see the kid actively chasing and trying to kill a cat, and it's like,
right. It's like at the first, it's the first couple times the cat unfortunately dies or almost dies, I guess. It's through misadventure.
right.
But by the end of it, this kid is actively trying to kill the cat, like blowing up its water dish, and like and you know what? The thing about this movie is, like, we're barely talking about the plot, but you can't, like, there's so much to talk about how unlikable every single person in this movie is. The only person who I kind of was like, hey, all right, other than, Freddie getting his own groove back by becoming a carny, was the cop who slapped that kid in the back of the head at the end of the movie.
Right, because she's going to be his new mom.
Right, because her dad, the Lotus dealer.
He was okay. I will say he was okay. He wasn't that
Ginty,
bad.
Robert Ginty, I think his name is.
The neighbor who's got the kid, who's got the Lolita daughter and the psycho son, is not too bad. And I actually kind of think he is the only really justified person for living in that house. Because Larroquette, I mean, it's an accident.
Burns
but
his house down. It's by accident.
Still burns his fucking house down. So, and I mean, he's building them like, I love how as soon as he gets in the house, he's like building like bleachers and like ramps.
Because like when he's woodworking, and that's like I guess that's his zen. That's the thing he does to unwind, because he works as a car dealer, and he's trying to sell Lotus cars that have people who are not in the know. They are very high-end sports cars that cost a lot of money. So, I mean, trying to make a living at that would definitely be a very high-pressure and stressful situation. I mean, so to unwind, he does woodworking. So there's piles and piles of sawdust in his garage. That's what starts the whole thing. When his house burns down because John Larroquette and them are celebrating because they think everybody's finally going to leave because Kirstie Alley hooks her sister up with him.
Yeah.
And so they're kind of celebrating that they're going to get rid of her and they're going to get rid of Jonathan, the nephew, because he's a whole other kettle of fish, because that's another house guest that shows up to take up space in their house. I don't know how, somehow, like, managed to, like, accidentally kick their barbecue and it rolls all the way across their backyard, tips over, and it goes into the guy's garage, which ignites it's a very Rube Goldberg-esque
man,
situation.
It's super convoluted is what it is. Like, yeah, exactly. Rube Goldberg. It's like one thing had to happen at the perfect moment for this to happen, and then this to happen, and then this to happen. It's like, come on. Like, I know I'm watching a dumb comedy, but like, come on. But yeah, then eventually just everyone's in the house. You mentioned Jonathan. I guess you should probably say who that guy is, because I thought he was going to be my one guy that was like, okay, maybe he's okay. Yeah,
because at first he seems it, because he's like, Dad kicked me out, or you're not his dad, I mean, it'd be his stepdad, kicked me out too when you left, so I hate to ask, but can I stay, with you guys? He's more hat in hand and knows that he's putting them out, and so they let him come in because the mom's living there, and he even says to Mark, who, I mean, by this time he's sleeping on a mattress in the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
Would you be able to help me get a job? Because I want to help, because you guys are doing all this, and I want to be able to get a job so I can get my own place and get out. They're glad to hear it. Great. John Larroquette, Mark, whatever, goes out of his way to get him a job at Larroquette and Miller, whatever the name of the fucking hedge fund company they work at is, and gets him a job in the mailroom. And you're like, okay, the kid's earning his pay. He's gonna save up. He's gonna move out. And he's a coke dealer.
Yeah. Well, out of nowhere, like a goddamn RKO.
Like an RK blow. See, because the cocaine, you see. And probably Randy Orton did a bunch of cocaine, I'm guessing.
What?
I'm not sure. He seems so level-headed to me.
Yeah. His emotions seem very sturdy. So he ends up getting a bunch of like cocaine delivered to the mailroom with like Mark's name on it. And then I guess that's like the big set piece towards near the end of the movie, where he's trying to get rid of this stuff. And it's like, fuck it, John Larroquette, just stop for a second, go up to the boss and be like, look, dude, I hired my nephew. Turns out he's into drugs. He's got a friggin' box of coke in the thing. I'm just letting you know what happened. Let's just call the police and deal with this.
I suppose that might work in a sane situation, but the nephew has this set up so that it's all coming to the company in Mark's name.
Yeah.
So he's like, and because he even says, like, when Mark confronts him about it, he's like, what the hell is this? And he's like, well, it's your name on the package, so I guess it's your cocaine, man. Can't, you gotta have that mild 80s racism. You gotta get that in there. Because, I mean, we're done talking about the oil magnate husband at this time, so you gotta figure out another way to get that quota. We all listen to the fact this is all happening over 50 days, like almost 2 straight months. Freddie has ran away. Like after there's a night where him and Larroquette go out and they kind of bond, and they have that moment where, you know, Larroquette's like, "Stop calling me Pudge," and then he reminds Freddie of all the good times that they did, what happened to you, where's your confidence, and then they dance to a song that's in the jukebox to everybody's delight in the bar, and the next day he wakes up and Freddie's run away, and we don't see him again until, like, I don't know, fucking almost till the end, where he shows up with an elephant because he's become a carny.
Not since the reveal of Tom Arnold having a garage circus have I been more surprised by a plot development. Also, I'm thinking, you know, that dance, that was a long dance that people just sat there and watched, but also it's
because everybody was like, "Hey, I haven't seen folks rip off the Temptations in a while."
But it doesn't hold a candle to the Polar Bear Squad.
Polar Bear Squad?
Early on in the movie, they do this little, you think they're going to do
this
this
little
little handshake.
Yes. Camp Redfern.
Polar Bear Squad, which culminates with cupping the other person's balls. Or jiggling them, I guess. That's his cousin.
Well,
it's a little weird.
70s and 80s summer camp culture was wild, man. I'm just gonna say that.
Oh, sure, but I mean, normally it's not a family member.
I don't.
It just was weird to me that it ended with
you know
them
what?
tickling each other's nuts.
I refuse to talk about this further. You can speak to my lawyers.
Oh, well, all right. Well, you know, hey, anyone out there tickling your family's balls, you know, just it's cool, man. Just don't tell me about it.
At about day 12 of this 50-day odyssey, they're sleeping in the kitchen on a mattress. Kirstie Alley, Jesse, since I've now taken to calling Don Larroquette by his character's name, Jesse is no really kind of way to dance around this. She's nearly raped by a snake. And they murder the snake. And rightfully so. Well,
I don't know. I don't know, because that seemed... I get grabbing the snake, and even throwing it out...
That snake was dead to begin with. I mean, there's no two ways that way that snake was reaching a natural end, because look who its owner was.
Well, that's what I'm going to say, but I'm going to say I would have even been okay if they had just thrown it out the window and let it, like, go off or whatever. But to put it in the blender is an extra step. But yes, like you said, that snake is owned by Lil Dahmer, so that snake is doomed. As soon as that snake outlives its worth, that kid is going to kill it, and I don't think that snake is also a Terminator, unless in the world of this movie, every animal is, when they die, are buried in a pet cemetery and just keep coming back to life.
I also found out this when I was checking out the IMDb on this. Jonathan played Philip in Nightmare on Elm Street 3, so he is in one of my favorite movies and not a total terrible person. So, I mean, good actor. Good actor. He's got range. Day 27, it's time to do something about these people. And this is when things really start turning dark for John Larroquette and Kirstie Alley, because John Larroquette's trying to, send them all off to be Hare Krishnas, because he's on the phone saying, do they all have to shave their heads and hand out flowers at the airport? Get it? Because the Hare Krishnas did that in the 80s.
And that joke ages like a fine wine, because that happens all the time still.
So this is where Kirstie Alley has her on-air meltdown, because she has gone from asking people, what's your secret summertime fantasy, to how would you murder somebody?
How did this pass before it got on the air? Because this is a recorded video. Are you telling me that no one else watched this before it went on air?
You know what? She's gone the 8 o'clock news, and what do they say about the 8 o'clock news?
I don't.
If it bleeds, it leads.
But they are clearly not happy with this report. And
no, this is not so much they're not happy with this report. She has an absolute on-air meltdown.
she literally is talking about house guests. I need them gone. How do you murder someone? And I'm like, in any universe, this meltdown, she would not have gotten a second chance, number one. Number two, she probably would have went straight to a jail or like a home. Like following
Well, because
this.
she practically admits to it because she says like Drano and the bean dip, those people were up all night shitting and they refused to jiggle the handle.
She literally admits to attempted murder on the
Actively
air.
attempted murder, exactly. Because she's like, oh, you think you're just gonna tap dance yourself into a pharmacy and get yourself some insulin like that doctor said? No. And and then of course, you know, she has her. They cut back to the poor anchor woman, which, I mean, you know what? Kudos to this movie. Not a single dude behind the anchor desk.
I was shocked.
And she's trying to deliver the news about what else is happening out in, you know, fucking San Bernardino and down in the valley and stuff like that. And Kirstie Alley's just wandering around in the background having her fucking psychotic break.
Yeah. And then they give her a second chance, and this is where I got to take Kirstie Alley's side a little bit, though, because this is after the drug thing has happened, and they find Jonathan's drugs, or they sorry.
Oh no, she has another psychotic break, and that's when she sees all the stuff that's happening at the house, because day 27 has the on-air meltdown, but the actual psychotic break, it happens on around day 49, because I took notes by the day.
Well, that's
Every
what I mean.
time
That's what I mean. Like, after this break, they give her another chance. And then day 49, she has a second break. And this is when John Larroquette has already dealt with the drug stuff. He comes to his home. He finds Fred with the elephant. The cops show up. They see the cat has ingested fucking cocaine and dies again.
Running circles on the front lawn.
Yeah.
Fucking really died. My favorite parts of the movie.
They see it, and the cops are like, it's a rock house. And
It's a rock house.
which I was like, is that a term?
It is.
I've heard crack house. I've
Oh my
never
God,
heard rock house.
Brandon, oh my God.
You know what I thought? You know what I thought?
I wish I could give you my active memories of the 80s just so you could see how this stuff is ridiculous now with us talking about it, but things like the rock house and a cat doing coke were just things that would happen in TV and movies all the time in the 80s.
The cat thing didn't shock me, but the just calling it a rock house, I was like,
Because it was crack.
my first thought. Well, I got that after. I actually had to look it up on Urban Dictionary, guys. but then my first thought was like, oh, are these cops gonna like jam with them for a bit? It's a rock house, yeah.
Yeah, wow. He even had the fucking Phil Alfon or whatever, the dude from Anthrax, shaved head and everything.
Yeah. They were cool cops, like the dad in Vibrations.
Right.
But this is her second breakdown. But this is, I'm going to say, completely understandable because she's on the news and it's her home. That's like
It's
the
her
top
home.
story.
Yeah.
Nobody thought to say, hey, Kirstie Alley, we might want to tell you about this before we air it.
It's not only that, like, okay, like the cops are there. There's like a helicopter overhead. The kid who they thought, oh, he's gonna be an upstanding child now. He's mowing a lawn. He carves he carves "fuck you" into the lawn. So this apparently the cops take it as a personal attack, and it enrages them more. And so not only are the cops there, they're breaking down the door. The helicopter's there. There's a battering ram that an elephant's trying to have sex with. A cat is dead. It's a madhouse.
Ah!
Where's Mariah?
Get away
Where's
from my
Mariah?
ribs. I gotta say, they shouldn't have been mad at that kid for mowing the lawn like that. They should have commended him for the effort it took to make that in the lawn.
That kid, I guarantee you, I mean, if he didn't become a full-blown serial killer, runs a very successful landscaping business.
Yeah, he like I thought Edward Scissorhands was impressive. I mean, that shit was, oof. But yeah, but don't worry because everything's wrapped up so neatly. But like, I also wanted them to just kill the house guest at this point, because it seems like they're going to, like, their big revenge moment in the finale of the movie. I'm like, just murder them, and you know what? They kind of do.
John Larroquette was going to.
Jonathan doesn't die, but I mean, come on, he died. He gets blown up in a car.
So like, okay, so after all of this, and John Larroquette has dumped out the cocaine on his neighbor's gravel driveway. He goes to get his wife at the news channel, and she doesn't want to leave. She just wants to live on the set of this cooking show, and they could sleep on one of the sets from the soap operas. She says, we're going to be the phantoms of Channel 12 and just live here because there's no house guest. But he talks her down, and they go back, and it's day 50. And it's the day of reckoning. They go in and they have the showdown with Bernice because, surprise, she's not pregnant. She had Jesse, Kirstie Alley, FedEx her pee to her doctor in New Jersey, who ran a test and said there must have been a mix-up. You're not pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
She's getting the boot. So much so that they actually literally defenestrate her, like, out onto the front lawn.
She almost
dies.
She almost hits a pike through her head.
Okay.
So yeah.
If this were a horror movie, she would have been impaled on something.
Oh, for sure, 100%. But that's like straight up attempted murder of Jonathan. Like, there's no two ways about it.
And they're like, okay, so now it's time to clean house. Everybody realizes that they have snapped. Because at this point, they are no longer living in their own house. They are yard people eating pigeons.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're like, that's it. She's not pregnant. We're getting rid of these people. They try to like close and lock the doors so they can't get in. Of course, they break the windows to get in. They kick open the doors. For some reason, they yell, "Company!"
Yeah, that was weird.
And then just start kicking ass. John Larroquette picks up a circular saw and starts coming after the paper chase guy. Like he's gonna like stick it in his chest and just like fucking straight up murder him, Jason Voorhees style. He doesn't because the cord becomes unplugged. But hey, you know what? The couple that murders together stays together. Kirstie Alley plugs him in and gives him all kinds of extension cord they can chase him around the house with the circular saw.
Yeah, it's like if they had not been successful in getting away, this would have been several murders. I think they should have just done it. Fuck it, just end the movie. I mean,
she goes upstairs and she starts just spray painting her sister's wardrobe.
Oh yeah.
That was kind of satisfying, actually.
Everybody, they clean house literally on every single person. Jonathan, though, throws a wrench into their plan because he comes in with a gun and he's like, I'm taking, give me your keys, and they give him the keys to Paper Chase guys, one of his Lotus, yeah. But they also, why does he have a bomb? Like,
okay, so here's what happens.
Out of his bag.
This is what happens. It's the sociopaths. It's Lil Dahmer's book bag.
Oh, okay.
Also, Lil Dahmer, I'm surprised. I mean, could have been a Saturday morning cartoon that I would have watched.
That's awful.
Lil Dahmer, L-I-L, Lil Dahmer.
That should have been the Evan Peters show. Never mind seeing like Jeffrey Dahmer's crimes. We know what happened. Give us Lil Dahmer.
Give us Lil Dahmer. It's his book bag, and he has a fascination with fireworks and explosives.
Right.
So Larroquette takes the coke, whatever is left over it, because I thought he sprinkled it on the fucking driveway, puts it in the book bag, and then because they're doing all this kind of like, I don't know, they're doing some real David Copperfield shit where they're sleight of handing him, and they give him that book bag. While he's doing the whole sleight of hand stuff, he hands Kirstie Alley a lighter. And then he gives the guy he gives Jonathan the Lotus keys And as he's turning to go, she lights the fuse. Apparently, it's a Yosemite Sam fuse.
Oh, yeah.
Because it takes forever to reach
It
the
blows
payload.
up when it's convenient to the plot.
No, it blows up when it's convenient not to blow up a Lotus.
That's true. When it's off camera, yes.
Yeah, exactly.
But again, he's dead. Like, he's dead.
He's dead, but he's not.
But he's
because
not.
the cops catch him.
But he's dead. he's got, like, cartoon, like, soot in his face.
Exactly. Because after that happens, the cops show up. John Larroquette is at this point, he is on top of the delightfully appointed Spanish tile roof that they have. He is threatening to burn it down.
And then Logan Paul showed up. Of course, he was just a little bitty baby at the time, but it was great.
Right, and he had that other baby dressed in the sports drink bottle.
I thought it was weird how John Larroquette splashed that baby through a table. I mean, that was a little extreme.
Dude, the 80s were a wild time.
Come on, how many babies got splashed through tables in the 80s?
I mean, are you looking at, like, you know, regionally, like, or just overall, like, a number? Because, I mean, I'm gonna say, on average, 4 or 5 a week.
Okay.
A lot of, I mean, it was, dude, the 80s, they were wild, man.
Baby splashing, yeah.
The cat still alive. The reason why the cops have showed up is because they've been told to go issue an apology for basically destroying the house, and they have been said that we are going to pay for all of the damages and repairs. And the criminal investigation is now kaputski because the only hard evidence they had, the dead cat that they put in an evidence bag and locked in the evidence locker, is no longer there because the cat is still fucking alive.
It's a huge Deus Ex Machina here. They just show up and they're like, and we'll pay for it all.
Yep. And so everything gets it even gets wrapped up even more so because we did fail to mention the cigar jumping hard ass client that Larroquette, he picked his stocks for him, and it was picked this company. It wasn't Electrolux, but it was similar sounding.
Yeah.
They were nosediving. Every time you turn around, this stock was taking a plunge, but because he was so preoccupied with what was going on in the house, he couldn't sell off the stock, and the client was absolutely just taking a bath on this stock. But then all of a sudden, the fraud charges against the company were dismissed. They picked up more contracts with the U.S. government, and their stock went through the roof. The guy shows up at the end to say, "You're a genius, and I want you to work for me at 4 times your salary." And, of course, not only does this mean he's going to make 4 times his salary, Jesse's sister takes notice of it, and she's like, he's not over 80, so I'll have sex with him in his Rolls Royce because my son is going to jail. And they leave, so we've gotten rid of Jonathan.
Yeah.
We've gotten rid of
the sister.
We've gotten rid of the sister. Bernice and Freddie are going to be leaving because Bernice is not pregnant and can now travel. Although apparently they're going to drive cross country.
And apparently, I mean, listen, Bernice is obviously portrayed as a villain, but apparently she's just going to live in a life of silence for the rest of her life. Because as they're leaving, he says, "What did I say, honey? No talking."
Now, no more yapping.
No more yapping. And I was like,
so you can talk, just stop yapping.
Yeah.
And I guess what's going to happen with Paper Chase and his, 2 deviant kids?
They're left out in the cold, I guess.
Okay. Because they're all gone. And so finally our delightful couple is now back to enjoying the peace and silence of their absolutely destroyed home. They lay down in their bed.
Disgusting. Clean those sheets. That's where Bernice was for this whole movie.
But before they could get down to making any of that sweet 80s untrimmed bush love, John Larroquette goes and smashes the toilet because it's still running, because even in their most deepest, darkest, desperate hours, those house guests would not jiggle the handle. We get a couple of credits afterwards that they do very well. He works for the guy. Kirstie Alley writes a book. They both do great. They get a new place and they do fantastic until their parents come to visit.
The "Where Are They Now" credits are so weird when it's in a fictional movie. It's so
right?
bizarre. I also like how they basically just tell you that Kirstie Alley basically becomes Howard Beale from Network at the end of the movie because her crazed rant makes her like a star.
She gets her own gig, like her own television show.
Oh, and also they get the cat. That's the cat's redemption arc, is that he feels so bad for this couple that he comes up, Kirstie Alley's terrified, and then he's just like, nope, he's our cat now.
Right, because, he wouldn't... At first, when she first met him, he reached out of the cat carrier and scratched her. Absolutely, it's destroyed her dress.
Yeah.
And then it does the same thing to Bernice at the end of the movie, and they're like, we think he's run through about 4 of his lives. He's welcome to have the rest of them with us here, and we'll be keeping them.
Yeah,
him.
Yeah, he's a cute cat.
Yeah. So everyone's just gonna go off and continue to be awful as the 90s roll on ahead of them at the freight train pace. That was Brendan. Brendan did not care for this movie. Those are his notes going away. All right, well, you know what? Despite the slight sound spoiler there, Brendan, would you say that this is worth a watch? A drunk watch with friends? Would you tempt head trauma to forget this movie, or were you just going to tell people to avoid it like the plague?
I would probably attempt head trauma. I'm not going to go full tilt to avoid like the plague. I've never gotten to do the notes crumple sound effect, and I actually wrote my notes this time, so it was fun. No, I would say head trauma.
Cathartic, isn't it?
It is. Because every time I crumple up my computer, it causes issues.
I have to go buy a new one.
This is it's just, I just realized I crumpled my low haiku.
I better uncrumple these notes. Maybe it is a drunk watch with friends.
Yeah, so I think that this it's just one of those like zany comedies that's not really all that funny, I guess, in my opinion. It's got 2 capable leads, and a lot of very by-the-numbers jokes, very tropey tropes. And it at times
not enough Dennis Miller for you?
Not enough, definitely not enough Dennis Miller. And at times, though, honestly, it dragged. Like, for a 90-minute movie, it definitely dragged in parts. So I will say, I would just attempt head trauma to forget it. What about you, pal?
Well, I'm actually going to say a drunk watch with friends, but again, I think I have more of an active memory of the 80s, so I can appreciate kind of like the other media that would have been similar to this. So I think it strikes a little bit more nostalgia with me.
That's fair.
So.
It's hard. Sometimes it's hard for me to separate when nostalgia's involved, unless it's Masters of the Universe, which I now recognize as a giant turd.
I'll be back.
God. But yeah.
So okay, that's it. That was Madhouse.
Bye, everybody.
No. Just stick around.
Oh, okay,
You're telling the league. Look, don't touch the dial because things have dials because it's the 80s.
Right.
Remember?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So we're just gonna take a break. It's just a break.
All right.
It's a little break. We're gonna take it. We're gonna pay some bills, and we'll be right back.
All right, I'm just gonna unplug my computer real quick.
What were they thinking?
And we are back. Yes. Putting on our best NPR voices because it's that time of the episode where we like to get a little poetical. It's time now for the low haiku.
Yes.
And Brendan, for any possible new listeners out there or folks who are living the nightmare that Drew Barrymore did in 50 First Dates, explain to them what the low haiku is all about.
I was just thinking about that, no word of a lie, last night. For some reason, it popped into my head, and I just remembered what at first seems romantic, and when you think about it for 2 minutes, terrifying nightmare world.
A walking nightmare, yes.
Good movie, though. Yes, the low haiku is 17 perfect syllables that we like to bestow upon our listeners that kind of sum up the movie we just talked about.
Okay, all right. And as I was leading this charge, I will defer to you to grace us with your low haiku first.
Kirstie, crushing it. Larroquette, doing his best. Movie, zany. Ugh.
Oh, very good, very good. It's interesting. Like your haiku actually spells out a recipe for what should be a good movie, as does the general, the broader things are the bones of this movie should be good.
I like zany when there's jokes that I haven't seen 8 million times.
Right.
Okay.
Little hacky.
Little hacky sacky. Yeah, that's what they call it, right?
That's what they did in the 80s.
Oh, hacky sack. There we go. It's a callback. Nathan, would you like to read your low haiku?
I do, and fellow Misties out there might recognize this.
Well, play some Misty for us.
Oh no, Misties, Mystery Science Theater.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, it's the 80s. Do a lot of coke and vote for Ronald Reagan. Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you. And thank you to Michael J. Nelson for the lyrics.
Big 180 from your Reagan stance earlier.
You know what? It's just a statement on the 80s in general, not my personal.
Just go back in time and vote for Ronald Reagan. See what happens.
Okay. And so with that, we are just gonna. We gotta talk to Milos about getting NPR bot fixed. Something. Yeah. You know what he could do? He could get him fixed and put in. We could put like Steven Seagal traps around.
Okay.
Around the studio.
So like mouse traps, but they just have pieces of cake.
Right. And they're like really, really big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And they have a sign that says these are not Steven Seagal traps.
Right, because he would see that and go, oh, it's okay, it's not a Steven
Oh,
Seagal
wait. I just made the assumption that he can read. So silly me.
So what you're saying is people read his scripts so he can memorize them?
I'm assuming. Or the cue cards are like pop-up books. They're just like pictures, and he tries his best to say what they are.
That one's a little bit country, and that one's a little bit rock and roll.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So, well, you know what? We've waxed poetic. We have talked about the finer points of this movie, as chaotic as it may have sounded. All of that happened. There's not enough time in the world to break that thing down beat by beat. That's what it is. But we don't want you guys to think that we are the arbiters of good taste and that we are the be all and end all of what you should be doing. So much so that we want you guys to think for yourself, that we tell you, this thing that we say around here. We've been saying it for years. And what's that thing that we've been saying for years, Brendan?
Well, that thing that we say is...
Don't take a word for us.
That's right. Don't take our word for it. Brendan, I'm assuming that because Larroquette and Kirstie Alley, stalwarts of 80s sitcoms, and let's absolutely be honest, two fine comedic actors in their own right. Format be damned.
Right.
The critics must have loved this movie.
Not a one. Out of the 7 critics that reviewed this movie, the 7 reviews they were able to obtain, 0% of them liked this movie.
Oh, but Night Court and Cheers,
right?
Huge fan base. The fans like me thinking Kirstie Alley and John Larroquette in the movie together. I gotta see that. That they must have They must have showed out in droves and loved this thing. It's got to be a very Mario Brothers movie-esque type situation.
So no to the showing up in droves, apparently, and no to the overwhelming love, because only about 500 plus ratings and 45% of them liked it.
Oh, dear me.
Yeah. But Nathan, I've got some good news for you. If you found some enjoyment out of this movie, you may also enjoy these movies. Nobody's Fool, which also has a 0%.
Okay.
A movie called Greedy with Michael J. Fox.
I've seen that.
Soul Man, which we may have to do one day. I feel like it has to happen.
It crawled so Loquisha could walk.
Exactly. Dick, a movie about Jenna Elfman and I think it's Jenna Elfman and Kirsten Dunst to become like dog walkers for Richard Nixon. Apparently, it's pretty funny. And of course, Calendar Girl, starring Jason Priestley, who is pretty nice in real life because I got to talk to him on the phone one time and it was cool.
Cool.
I can't say this. I can't say why.
Movie is good
on air. But yeah, it was a fun time. It was a good time. He's a very sweet, nice gentleman.
Okay, well there we go.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you know what? Priestley pleasantness aside, let's get into the critics, because I actually think we've got this pretty split. There's only 4 that we could actually read here on the tomatoes, so let's just burn right through them. Yeah, and I'll say the first one here, of course, my boy Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times. He says this movie is mostly merely Priestley pleasant. On a few occasions, it's very funny, but it never quite goes over the top and gets the big laughs it is obviously aiming for. 2 out of 4. Okay. Well, Scott Weinberg of eFilmCritic.com back in 2002 apparently wrote, "It's like a sitcom exploded onto the big screen." Yeah. 1 out of 5. I mean, that's a fair summation. Juan Carlos Cotto of the Miami Herald says Madhouse is the dime store equivalent of Louis Buñuel's The Exterminating Angel, or Mother, about dinner guests who can't bring themselves to leave a house and end up starving. Well, it's a different plot for that movie, but yeah, you know. Okay. And finally, Renee Jordan of El Nuevo Herald out of Miami writes, "The film crosses the line so much, after a while the accumulation of catastrophes is fatiguing." Okay. Well, that's all the reading ones that we can do. That's all the critics. Let's go into the audience reviews. The audience. Okay, let's see here. Okay, well, I think they're all from Neil Breen. I'm just going to preface that right now. I think all of these reviews are from Neil Breen, but this one is a 4-star review. It says, "My favorite parts are cat eating cocaine and don't you choke my cherub, don't you choke my cherub, and where the lady goes flying out the window in her wings of the night nightgown. I only remember a few details because I saw this when I was like 9. The "Don't Choke My Cherub," that was the husband. That was the off-screen oil magnate. Right. When she shows up, he has all like the security. That was stuff. That was one of the funniest parts for him, I guess. Okay. I mean, obviously it's an entendre for choking something. Right. Else, so. No. What? Well, my first one comes from Russell H. Russell Crowe. There you go. And he writes, "I didn't mind it. Very stupid, but I love Dan Fielding." 2.5 out of stars. I can't even say his name. Okay. This one is 4.5 stars. "This movie is crazy. It's funny, though." That's it. Okay. Neil Breen wrote, "A decent sitcom, too. 4 out of stars." Wow. Okay, this one is a negative review from Neil Breen. And he says, "Rivals The Never-Ending Story 2 as my least essential theatrical viewing experience. Still, I miss the days when John Larroquette could have been considered, however incorrectly, a viable leading man for a feature film. My weakness for broad comedies in which property is needlessly destroyed prevents me from hating it with any real vigor, but it's still a big pile of bad-smelling crap." As opposed to good-smelling crap, I guess? 1.5 stars. I don't think that's fair. I think Larroquette got a raw deal. I think he could have been a really good
Yeah, I guess
leading man.
I mean, it's hard to tell with this movie, you know.
He did a turn on, I believe it was Boston Public not Boston Public, Boston Legal in the 2000s. And the guy, he has chops for drama, but he likes comedy. So, I mean, he's stuck with his wheelhouse, and I'm guessing he saved his night court money. So he could pick and choose and just, not work whenever he decided, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Just speculating. But anyways, my next one comes from Neil Breen, and he writes, like the worst television sitcom turned into a really dumb movie about a bunch of people who never leave, and then Kirstie Alley's shirt bursts open for no reason at the end. Half out of stars. So Kirstie Alley's shirt bursting open gets it a half star, I guess.
Wow. I mean, that's at least 3 stars for me. That's my pervert review of the movie. Okay, my last review comes from Neil Breen, and he says, I love this movie, and I can't find it anywhere on DVD. I'm starting to get upset. 5 stars.
Someone get this guy a DVD copy. He's going to murder somebody.
He's not wrong, though. Like, I think this is on Tubi, but I don't think it's really, I don't think it's in print.
I don't believe it ever got re-released.
No.
I don't ever recall seeing it on DVD or anything like that.
No. I think this I think this is that was actually posted by the Hulk. That's why he gets angry all the time. He keeps remembering that Madhouse doesn't have an official DVD release.
Find Madhouse anywhere.
We get Animal House. We get House. Where's my Madhouse?
All right, Jesus. Neil Breen had a lot to say about this movie.
It's just all Neil Breen.
It is. It's a Breenapalooza. Because my last one comes from Neil Breen.
Oh, okay.
And he writes, along the same lines of Christmas Vacation, this movie is about a married couple who just buys a new home, and before they know it, it is overrun with unwanted house guests. There are some humorous moments, but overall, the writing is pretty weak. Kirstie Alley and John Larroquette do an adequate job, but the supporting cast that is dreadful and a little too obnoxious to be believable. The potential to make a great comedy was there, but it just fell short. One of those movies that you watch when there's nothing else on and you want to be mildly entertained. 2 out of stars. I never actually made that slight connection with the whole Christmas Vacation thing. Yeah, unwanted house guests that won't leave.
I get, well, yeah, but aren't they kind of wanted though? I mean, they know they're coming.
Not by Clark.
Not by Clark. He's too busy hitting on the young girl at the makeup counter. Clark is not a good guy.
Nope. Just like everybody else in this movie.
Yeah. Doesn't he full on or very nearly cheat on his wife in Vacation? Like he meets somebody at a pool and then she doesn't show up or something.
Possibly.
I think so. Because in Christmas Vacation, I'm like, oh, this is mild for old Clark, homewrecker Griswold. Okay, well, there you go. That's it.
All right. So yeah, that's it. That's that's what the critics and the audience had to say. So we're just gonna go ahead and we're gonna put Madhouse in our rear view, and we are gonna talk about some things that we, that we like. For good or for bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's time for the dance craze sensation that's sweeping the nation. It's the What Ya Watchin', Bud?
What you watching, bud? I don't know what you watching, bud. I'll tell you so. Do.
So, Brendan.
Yep.
What you watching, bud?
What am I watching? Well, over the last month and a half, maybe. I don't know how long it took me to watch this, but there's only 3 seasons. So I'm going to recommend 2 things, but they're tied in together. I watched the entire series of Deadwood. Great HBO show. If you like westerns, I guess
also known as Swearwood.
Very much so, cocksucker. It's anybody not familiar with the show would be like, why did Brendan just call Nathan a cocksucker?
Because Brendan's a rude dick.
Yeah.
Not all Canadians are super polite and happy guys. Deal with it.
Yeah, just like fuck off, cocksuckers. Okay. But Deadwood is it's a little bit. It's got some Western. Obviously, it takes place in like it's based on the real town of Deadwood, which had no laws governing it for a while. They had no statehood. It's a great show. Ian McShane as Al Swearingen is a legendary performance. So good. Timothy Oliphant is in it. He's great. There's lots of other character actors that you'll recognize. There's a couple people from Sons of Anarchy, actually. Nathan, there's Unser shows up as Utter, which I thought was funny that he barely changed his name. And Calamity Jane is played by... Don't remember her name, but she plays the biker gang's lawyer in Sons of Anarchy. So she shows up in this too. She's fantastic. So the show is really good. And then I'm also going to recommend that if you watch the show, because it's 3 seasons and got canceled. So if you watch the show, do watch Deadwood the movie, which came out about 13 years after, and does tie up a lot of loose ends and provides a great bit of satisfaction. You actually get to see some of these stories wrap up, and you get a sense of completeness. I have a hard time watching shows that I know didn't end on their own terms. But when I heard that there was a movie that fixed that, I was like, okay, I'm gonna give this a shot. So Deadwood and Deadwood the movie are on Crave in Canada, and they're probably on like HBO Max or something in the States. So check it out.
All right, there you go. I'll say this just because you mentioned that this isn't my my what you watching, but I guess it's kind of it's an addition to it now. The Black Donnellys was a great show because you mentioned the ones that didn't kind of get to end on their own terms, and this was it was a show that was on NBC for a season that ended on a cliffhanger, and it was such a heartbreak. But it's the show itself is really good. It's about this this family. They've kind of like a history of being ne'er-do-wells, but there's one of them who's trying to get out of that and be like an artist and go straight. And every turn, he keeps getting like knocked down from that and not being able to do it and go back to that life. And it ends with like this cliffhanger that never got resolved. If you want an exercise in frustration, check out that show. But if you want something light, this is the thing that I was actually going to recommend before Brendan gave me that terrible bit of trauma reminding. Beanie and Cecil. I've been watching a lot of that lately. It's a cartoon from the 60s. Now, that being said, it's a cartoon from the 60s. So if you're going to watch it, be full on prepared that there are going to be some less than culturally sensitive representations of minorities. That being said, it's not so egregious that it happens every episode and that you're going to be like, Nathan's a racist.
Is it on an underdog level?
No, actually, because the thing with the underdog, when I mentioned the underdog that I'd been watching, that had bumpers like other cartoons in between that had the Go-Go Gophers, and that's super offensive. I'm not gonna dance around that.
Yeah.
But Beanie and Cecil, mostly I've been watching it on YouTube, and mostly it's self-contained. It's one of those shows that didn't have like other cartoons by the same producer or the same animator that would go in to make up the half hour. It was always Adventures of Beanie and Cecil. So it's not like Woody Woodpecker where you'd watch a Woody Woodpecker and then there'd be a Chilly Willy episode or maybe an Andy Panda and then another Woody Woodpecker. Mm-hmm. All Beanie and Cecil. The reason why I'm recommending it is because it is so puntacular. Like there's a lot of jokes that are there from the 60s and stuff that you might have to look up if you're willing to do the legwork, but most of the time it's just absolutely pun after pun after pun. So if that's something that you like, and it's something that I really, really like, there's all kinds of free episodes on YouTube, and there's even you can even watch the episodes from the 90s that has Billy West doing the voice of Cecil. Oh. So there you go.
Very
good.
good.
Cecil. Yeah.
Well, there you go. There's your recommendations for this week. There's your homework, folks. Get that done. Get that all watched. You got 2 shows to watch and a movie. Nathan, our good friend Montrose Monkington, is he there to say a few parting words?
Yes, he is here to pimp his stuff. Just one moment.
I mean, I tried to be more elegant about it, but yeah, that's what he said.
You know what? He's so mean to me when the cameras aren't on and the recording's not running. So
even when the recording's running, he's
still pretty crummy. Yeah. I mean, he said on several occasions that we both smell.
Yeah. Oh shit, he's coming.
Contempt. Hello, it's your good friend Montrose Monkington III here, and I would just like to invite all of you. Why are you both looking at me like that? Were you two uncouth ne'er-do-wells who bathe infrequently talking about me?
Oh, no. Nathan, were you talking about it? Nope.
Oh, I wasn't. No. Not a word. Good. Keep it that way. Now, if you don't mind, I am your good friend, Montrose Monkington III, and I would just like to invite all of you over to my YouTube channel, Montrose Monkington TV, where I talk about the Graps a lot. You can also be friends with me on the Facebook group, Montrose Monkington III Esquire and Friends. And as a friend, if you'd like to, send me a friendly reminder to your friend Montrose on your Twitter devices, you can do so at Montrose III. That's the number 3 RD. Thank you. More later. Yeah. I'm watching you two.
Thank you, friend.
You're welcome.
Okay. Well, on that note, Nathan...
Is that an earshot?
Yeah, he's at an earshot.
Fucking primate.
Okay. Well, on that note, you can find us all over the place. We're all on all the socials. Look for not on the show, The Social, although we've got an appearance coming up, and I just want to let you know on air that it's going to be in 2 days, and I hope you're ready. But you can find us on Facebook. Just search for us there. We're on Twitter and Instagram at WWTT Podcast. Our home base for the podcast is Age of Radio.
Big time!
You go to ageofradio.org/whatwerethéthinking and find us there, or any podcast app. You could just search for us and listen to us on there. And you can also find us on TeePublic, Redbubble, and patreon.com/WWTT podcast. We got bonus episodes and shit on there, so check that out. But Nathan, I guess as we come to the end here, I just have, a few questions about this movie.
Okay. All right. Well, you know what? I, as the one who has seen it the most, I feel I am the resident Madhouse expert.
So like in the 80s, did like more people really do drugs?
Yes, a lot harder. Like coke was a huge thing.
Nathan, in the 80s, did people like smoke a bunch?
Oh yes, well, it was. You would get tickets for not smoking.
Nathan, was an actor the president?
I mean, actor's a pretty strong word in this case. But yes.
Nathan?
Yeah?
What the 80s?
What about them?
What were they thinking?
Buy, sell, low, high, buy, stock bells, ups and downs.
It's